Hey Toy Family, welcome to the Marsham Toy Hour, where we discuss anything and everything designer toys. I'm Gary Ham.
And I'm Teresa Hawkins.
And Teresa, we're going to take a trip to Chicago today.
We are.
So let's get to it. Our guests are they're no strangers to designer toys, that's for sure. They are the owners of Rotofugi, which is one of the world's probably premier sellers of designer toys, probably in the world. So they've won many designer toy awards for being best toy store. This has been going on for years now. They run an amazing art gallery, as well as they've helped produce toys with their partner, Scribbles Inc. And so Rotofugi is owned and operated by a husband and wife duo, and they are Kirby and Whitney Kerr. So welcome, guys.
Hey.
Hey.
Welcome.
You're a world premiere toy store. How does that sound?
I think that sounds pretty good. I think when I wrote our bio, I put that down in the hopes that maybe someday that would be true.
I think it definitely is.
So maybe it's true now.
As you watch other stores slowly, close up shop, you guys are one of the few remaining brick and mortars out there. So you're obviously doing something right.
Yes, hopefully.
Is that a nervous laugh? No.
Oh, no, I love our store. I love what we do. It's a weird life.
So I actually don't know the story of how you all get started. I know you started in 2004, but were you collectors before you decided to start up a shop in Chicago?
We had always been collectors of things. We had been collectors of snow domes and Kirby camera and lunch boxes and kind of toys in general, just kind of weird stuff. But we weren't really super familiar with designer toys until Kirby saw the article in Wired about Kid Robot. Was that December or January 2004?
Yeah, I think December 2003, maybe. There was an article in Wired that was just kind of a really brief overview of designer toys and talked a little bit about Kid Robot and Toy 2R.
And Kirby actually hid it from me until Valentine's Day because he bought me 2 baby key and this pink Kid Robot t-shirt with a key silhouette on it for Valentine's Day for that year.
What a sweetheart.
Right? And I was going to Chicago that weekend to look for us an apartment because he had gotten a job and we were moving from Arkansas back to Chicago. And he gave me this present and said, look for these toys in Chicago. And I came up and looked for an apartment and looked for the toys. And everybody was like, what are those? We don't know what those are.
And so what made you want to then open a shop?
Well, we sold a house in Arkansas and we had some money. And we had...
We're very practical people, as you can tell.
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
you know what? No, it was 2004 and I thought housing was too expensive in Chicago and it wasn't enough to put 20% down on anything we wanted. Instead, we should open this store instead. We had actually spent a good 2 years, we were in Arkansas, researching opening kind of like a high-end dog store concept.
Okay.
There's a ton of really great stores like this in Chicago, and we'd moved to Little Rock, and there wasn't anything. But we just kind of didn't have the money, but we did all the research on what it would take to open a retail store. And it didn't pan out, and we didn't do it. But then we moved to Chicago. We found these great toys that we just completely fell in love with immediately. We had money from the sale of this house, and we'd already done all this research on how to open a toy store, and I really didn't want a day job again.
I understand that.
Did you all live in a store?
Practically, then.
But no, we've never lived in our store.
But you bought a store instead of a house?
Oh,
Well, we
fully
use the
started-
money from the sale of the house to start a business instead of buying.
We used the money to open the store.
Cool.
Okay. So I was kind of with you, Teresa. I was thinking that when she said they didn't have the 20% to buy a house in Chicago, that why not just buy a store and live there?
Right.
I don't know. I like the way that story sounds, Gary. Maybe we could.
Yeah, that would have been a better idea.
To be fair, the first probably 5 years we both worked so much, we did practically live there.
Yeah. But it was so much fun. And what else were we going to be doing? Sitting at home watching TV? I loved it. It was great.
So when you opened the store, were you both full-time into the store, or did that take a while did one of you still hold down like a day job and then eventually that transition happened to where you're both full-time?
Kirby had a full-time job for the first 9 months.
Okay.
And then he quit, and then we were both full-time.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. We had a really fast trajectory in startup.
Wow, that's great. I mean, what do you think you attribute that early success to? Is it just do you think it had a large part to do with your being one of the few designer toy stores starting up in the U.S. at that time? Or because I would think designer toys were fairly new. I think you would have a slower start than that.
I think it was just timing. That
Yeah.
was, mid 2004 was when kind of the idea of toys as art, designer toys, was really starting to take hold in the U.S. It had been really active in Hong Kong and somewhat Japan for years at that point, and really was starting to die off in Hong Kong by that point, but was really starting to take off in the U.S. And I think we just timed it perfectly.
Yeah. And we were opening up the same time a bunch of other stores were opening up too. My plastic card opened up really close to when we did Robot Love. And
yeah, so I think around 2004 there was pretty much Strange Co. and Kid Robot out in San Francisco. I think there's Kid Robot in New York, but Midwest-wise there's probably almost mainly you, right?
Robot Love was in Minneapolis.
Okay.
And then later Rivet and Ultra Pop came along.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then there's Lift in Detroit and Rivet in Columbus, but her physical store wasn't open in 2004. Our physical store was a few years before hers.
Was Ultra Pop that old?
No.
Okay. I didn't think it was.
Well, but Paul's been doing it for a long time. I think
Paul has,
at least 10 years.
I would say Paul is probably like 2007, 2008.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did you guys start the gallery? Did you always have a gallery right off the bat, or did that come when you moved to your new location?
It pretty much started right off the bat. Funny story, or maybe not that.
We love funny stories.
Not funny, haha. When we first started, we called ourselves Rotofugi Designer Toy Store and Gallery, with the idea of letting people know that they're not just toys. This is a gallery of toys.
Right.
This is an art form, and really wanted to kind of push that aspect. It turns out if you put gallery in your name, people pretty much immediately want to start booking exhibits and asking, hey, can I show in your space or whatever? And one of the first people to ask us that was Eddie Yip from Ed Funcher.
Oh, okay.
There's an old school name that designer toy collectors probably haven't heard in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And Eddie had this touring show that he wanted to show in Chicago. And so we booked our first kind of art exhibit before we even opened.
It's crazy.
And Eddie turned out to be a great partner. And that took us down a road that we did not initially plan, which is kind of our dual role as both a toy store and an art gallery.
Yeah, no, it's kind of cool. Just kind of having my happenstance and misinterpretation of your version of gallery. So then I guess let me ask you this. So it seems like most designer toy stores also have a gallery space as well. How important is that gallery space? Like, can a store sustain primarily just on designer toy sales alone? Or do you really need that additional income from exhibits and shows to help keep a physical location open?
I think overall the gallery has really helped give people a reason to come back on a regular basis. I feel like we have a pretty good steady clientele of people who drop by once a month to check out the art in the gallery.
Yeah, it's a pretty important part of our business.
Yeah, but then sometimes I wonder how much time we spend on it.
Yeah, being a gallery and a toy store, we are kind of running two businesses. And so, there are sometimes conflicting challenges with our time and our energy. And it's something we constantly ask ourselves and evaluate, like, how badly do we need this, or how badly do we want it? And the answer so far has been we want it pretty bad. We enjoy...
Right.
I particularly enjoy just the juxtaposition of having kind of more traditional art form on the walls, paintings, drawings, that sort of thing. And that's primarily what we show. We do an occasional custom toy show, but the gallery mostly is traditional artwork. And I just really like that we have this art-filled space and toys and have them all together. And we're kind of mixing, blending, and showing that, the toys are not just playthings, that they're also design objects and art. And having that context, I think, is a real important part of what we've done for the last 13 years.
13 years.
Oh, ghostly.
Right?
We're a teenager now.
Oh, come to think of that, you mentioned, like, when you guys first started in 2004, it seems like there's been a baby boom in this designer toy scene between artists and store owners and bloggers, like a lot of babies popping up. So how has that changed now that you guys have a son? How has that changed the business for you?
I feel like our store really misses our sweat equity. I definitely want to work less than I used to,
Yeah, sure. We all do, though.
That is so true. I think what Whitney's trying to say is that it's been both challenging and rewarding. Being new parents, we've got a 3-year-old. It's been a big change in our lives because for the 10 years before our son joined us, our business was our child. And we put all of our time and energy and effort into it, and kind of learning how to run our business and also be responsible for another human being has been a learning process.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I think it's one we're still figuring out. And, of course, kids keep growing up, so the dynamic is constantly changing.
Well, we just got to teach him.
Fun amount of time.
We're just eventually going to teach him how to work.
Right.
And he'll just be at the store.
There you go.
At least for me, that's my goal.
Yep.
And I grew up, I didn't really work in my parents' business as a kid, but it was attached to our house. And I always thought it was pretty great to just be underfoot and always have your parents around.
That's awesome though. Just keep it in the family, and one day he'll be stocking the shelves and sweeping the floors and doing all your shipping and everything.
Yeah. I have the dream of him being on a tricycle and riding to the front of the store and saying, "Welcome to Rotofugi. If you have any questions, just ask my mom." And then cycling away. And then I pay him a quarter every time he does it. I want that to be his first job.
That's awesome. That sounds perfect.
Well, you were talking about, the gallery show and the gallery side of the business and the aspect of that and kind of the importance from both just the combination of different art form, but also from a business perspective. And I was just curious, being one of the few brick and mortar stores remaining out there, I'm curious if you could talk to kind of the importance of why you feel like a physical location is important to still have around. It kind of sounds like, there's a lot of value both for the gallery shows, but also just maybe having a place for people to gather and kind of hang out and have a place to go where other toy lovers can meet. Whereas if you don't have brick and mortar around, you kind of lose that.
Well, and I think, too, how many people discover designer toys because of a physical space?
Yeah.
And for everybody who thinks that they see everything in the world because of the internet, that's just not true, because every single day people walk into our store and they get this really worried look on their face, and they'll say why have I never seen any of this before? Why is everything in here foreign to me? And I really love that, because how many times in life do we get to walk in and discover something completely new to us?
Yeah.
I really love that part of our business. And just having physical spaces in the world for things to exist in real time outside of the algorithm of what the internet hands you is just so important in general.
Maybe more important now than it was even 2 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
It's more and more important for places like our business to exist in reality, in a real space where you can walk in and touch things. We've always been really big proponents of having stuff out of box and on display. We always have open blind boxes. We always have one of every bigger figure out of its box where people can see what it really looks like. And that's the benefit that a brick and mortar store can give that an online retailer just can't, no matter how badly they want to.
Right.
And just strictly from a financial perspective, our physical brick and mortar store outperforms our online store by a lot.
Interesting.
I think that's great to hear, because I think a lot of people think of this industry as, having to be global. And the fact that you guys are now saying that your physical location outperforms your online, I think that's kind of goes against what a lot of people probably assume. And I think that's fantastic to actually hear.
Yeah.
Okay, then, so speaking of a physical location, can you give us maybe an idea of what percentage might be the avid collector versus maybe the casual, or just the drifter who just stumbles into your store not knowing much about designer toys?
Oh, gosh. I'm going to put some numbers out here, and then Whitney's going to correct me. If I had to guess, I don't have a hard number on that right now, because that's, defining avid collector versus casual collector is a hard distinction.
Yeah. But
at this point in time, avid collectors are 5% of our business, maybe 10%.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a time 10 years ago where the avid collectors and the real hardcore, I've got to order one of everything type collectors made up a huge part of our business. But that has slowly changed.
Actually, I do have a small correction to this where I'm with Kirby and I'm not. Say online, it's about 50% hard collector and repeat, because we get a lot of repeat business online. In store, although here's a kind of interesting thing I've thought of this year. I think sometimes some of our hard collectors we don't necessarily think of, because when I think of hardcore toy collector, I think like squat collector. I usually want to assign it to men more than women, but I think we have a good number. I know. Listen. I know. I'm aware. Self-realizing my own. But no, I was talking to somebody earlier this year who was talking about being a hardcore collector, and I just realized how much I'd never. But I think we have a lot of like hardcore girl collectors in Chicago.
Yeah.
I think that was really evident with the Tokidoki pop-up we did.
Oh yeah.
Well, and see,
you know,
when you say hardcore collector or avid collector, I guess it depends on what you mean, because I consider myself a pretty hardcore collector, but not necessarily towards the idea of gotta have one of everything, of certain stuff, but I collect a lot pretty often. I'm assuming you probably have a mix of that, right? Of people
and
like...
the other
definitely.
distinction and the other distinction I'm trying to make that I hadn't really thought of is the avid collector who only buys blind boxes and never buys the big expensive toys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but not considering them hardcore. But, you know, if you spend $100 on blind boxes every month, that's pretty hardcore. Like, you don't need to spend it on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Our customer, honestly, right now, our base is we have lots of families and lots of kids. And I actually think it's a lot of fun because we have a lot of parents now who are coming in who initially found our store in the early 2000s. And now they have 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds. And they're bringing them back in and experiencing art with their kids.
That's awesome. That's probably more kind of where I'm going to end up being, with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. I mean, I know my kids, they love watching like blind box openings on YouTube and whatnot. They're very into blind boxes, Hatchimals, and all sorts of stuff like that. So I assume that when families come in, they're probably more into the minifigure and blind box side of things of your store.
Yeah, most definitely. But we had a family who came in this week. They're moving to Maryland, and the mom bought a piece of art for each of the kids' rooms to remember Chicago by. So, you know, we also have clientele who are buying art for their kids.
That's some good parenting right there.
I think we need to add that to all of the How to Parent books. Purchase original art
for your children.
Amen.
Yes.
You know, we're talking a lot about different types of collectors, but as far as the type of stuff you sell, so you're talking a lot about blind boxes versus kind of the more pricier limited pieces. Do you have like a certain type of product that you sell more or stock more of? Like, are blind boxes kind of a big thing for you all, or do you kind of sell across the board?
We've got a pretty darn broad selection. I will say this much, though. The bigger vinyl pieces, the kind of, $60, $80 vinyl that was really popular late 2000s, it has really evolved and changed. And it's not that it doesn't exist anymore, but it's that a lot of it's not going through the retail channel.
Yep.
Right.
It's being sold directly by the artists. They're making smaller editions. The world doesn't have the StrangeCats anymore. And even Kid Robot, if you look at what they released, they're not releasing a lot of big pieces.
Yeah.
Because that's a tough market right now. And so that part of designer vinyl is kind of slowly becoming I buy it directly from the artist, or I buy it directly from the manufacturer, which I'm fine with as long as there's a piece left for us. And in that case, it is blind boxes primarily. We do sell a lot of plush too. We really
Yummy
do.
World.
We sell a surprising
Yummy World.
Between things like Yummy World, and we stock a lot of imported plush stuff from Japan. Just it all sells really well.
Cool. Speaking of importing, do you all feel like you ever have issues being able to import different stuff in, or do you feel like
We've had our issues. For the most part, it's easy. It gets complicated when the dollar amount gets higher. And the funny part about it is, in my opinion, is, I'm relying on a vendor that in a lot of cases doesn't even speak English to correctly declare value and all kinds of like really technical things that need to be right on a customs form for it to clear easily without a lot of knowledge on how to do that sometimes.
That's interesting. I didn't think about that.
So we've had our issues, but for the most part, it's pretty easy. That's one of the benefits of being in the U.S. as opposed to, say, Europe, where it's a lot more stringent. In the U.S., there's not a lot of tariffs. I think I've paid a tax or a tariff on an import once in 13 years.
Wow.
And that's because it was T-shirts that had cotton in them.
Interesting.
What's up with cotton?
That toys aren't taxed in any way by customs. There's no duties, unless it's a really high value and we have to do a formal clearance. It's a relatively easy process.
Well, that's good. I've never fully understood how the tariffs and all that work. I know every time I ship to Europe, they're always asking, could you declare low value? Could you make a gift? And that's stuff I never understood. I never thought that we dealt with that here, and it sounds like you're saying that's pretty much not the case with toys. But it's also really cool that you guys are able to import a lot of stuff, because I look at a lot of toy makers and artists. They're making amazing toys over in Asia, and I just don't know how to get it. One thing is the language barrier. That's tough to get around, and I can Google Translate all I want, but I still can't figure out how to buy the stuff. And you guys are now able to get a lot of that stuff, like the Vinyl Artist Gotcha series.
Yeah.
We love that series. I personally love that series.
I love that series.
It's great.
Medicom's been a really good benefactor of kind of the idea of art toys, even though they're a much bigger producer and are kind of working on a different level. They're really behind the idea, especially of Sofubi or Kaiju toys being an art form. Mm-hmm. And we're very lucky to have had a fairly long relationship with them.
Yeah, no, totally. They're awesome. And so, now, speaking of online sales, then let's get into a lot of artists and, releases have a lot of hype behind them. How often does that online hype match the sales? Does it always match sales?
No, not even close. Like 100 likes is good for maybe one sale.
That's not surprising.
Maybe.
So I guess as we get into how that changes things, like when you first got started, you're probably ordering mainly just directly from distributors and stores, and you would kind of probably blindly order inventory for the store. But today it seems like we're getting into a little more of a pre-order situation with Kid Robot and some of the other companies. Has that helped at all?
No. We've quit doing them. We did them for a while, but we just decided it wasn't the business model we wanted to go through. The paperwork processing on pre-orders and the organization around it just wasn't worth the hassle. So I'll sell it. I'll sell it when I get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Someone just came into the store.
It's like a horror movie sound.
Totally.
Sorry, that was a door. We've got a nice old Chicago apartment, so anytime you move a door, it makes a nice sound.
Yeah.
So question, if you're not doing pre-orders, how do you kind of judge how much to stock of an item? Is it just experience or kind of feel of the reaction on social media, or do you all just, how do you make that call?
9 times out of 10, we're going on experience and gut.
Yeah.
Just how you feel about it, like if you feel like it's going to be a really successful toy.
Well, we have, I don't want to say it's a unique perspective, but somewhat rare perspective on designer toys, in that we've been involved in it for so long that I do feel like we kind of know what's going to work and what's not going to work. That said, there's one rule when it comes to ordering stuff. The more I like something, the less we should order.
You're not a good gauge, huh?
I'm a horrible gauge.
Interesting.
And I think that goes back to the fact that, we've been collecting toys for so long that my tastes have gradually become more and more and more esoteric. And it takes something really kind of unusual for me to get excited. And so those are the things that I gravitate to, but they're not for everybody.
No, I know that well. I mean, that's a good definition of designer toys right there. It's hard to predict. So when you guys first started the store, it was probably a lot more focused on what we consider designer toys, right? But then today, it seems like you guys are a lot more well-rounded, like toy boutique store, where you got your designer toys, but as well, you're also carrying Funko and imported toys and plush and a very well-rounded portfolio. So how important is that today to have a wider range of toys that probably appeals to a greater audience?
When we first opened, we kind of had a hard rule about nothing licensed. Mm-hmm. No movie references, no TV references, no comic references. Maybe comic, but then you wanted independent comic and not, Marvel or the bigger. It was art toys, and we carry Funko because I like having a store, and Funko makes cute, stylized action figures. You're going to be hard pressed to get excited about a Funko figure myself. But I love that people love them. And right now, Funko is bringing a ton of people to designer toys.
For sure.
And introducing more people to designer toys.
Yeah. No, can I say how I love that you're saying that, because from my perspective in this designer toy scene, and I've actually heard from Funko collectors saying that, our toy scene isn't exactly very welcoming of and appreciative of Funko. Like, they are bringing new eyes into our toy scene, and I feel like a lot of people in our toy scene are just giving it Funko a lot of vitriol and vocal negativity that I think is hard for someone who, like Funko collectors, to want to come and view our toy scene when someone is constantly knocking and hating on what they currently love.
Right. And when you collect plastic toys, be really careful who you criticize.
Yeah.
I mean, I love what we do, but I do not take us seriously. I don't know. Don't get too snobby about the toys.
Well,
I have plenty of snobbiness for both of us.
Snob. No, but seriously, I think, if we can even get like 5 or 10% of the eyeballs that are currently collecting Funko to look in our direction, that would be amazing. And I don't want to see those eyes rolling when they, start looking into our scene and they start seeing some of the hateful comments and T-shirts saying "fuck no" to Funko and stuff like that. Like, I think a lot of that stuff's uncalled for. I mean, toys are toys. It's all subjective. You like what you like, and they, Funko collectors like what they like, and everything appeals to everyone differently. And I would really hate that our toy scene might be turning them off at all. Like, I want the scene to grow. Let's go.
I mean, I think the people that are saying stuff like that are really out of the loop, because you don't have to buy stuff if you don't like it. That doesn't mean you have to shit on it.
Right.
I think I probably have a really similar view to Whitney in that, I'm not going to start a giant wall of Funko collection in our home.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But I value what they do for designer toys so much. I think in a lot of ways they're kind of resurgence as a company. I mean, let's not forget, Funko was not a new company. Funko has been around pre-designer toys by a long time.
Well, and how many people? I'm sorry, Kirby, to interrupt you, but if I'm not mistaken, like one of like the early artists in Hong Kong, I think is it Michael Lau or Eric So, like had a huge Funko collection, Wacky Wobbler collection, and it was really influential in them making toys. Before anybody was making designer toys, Funko was making Wacky Wobblers. People were collecting them.
Yeah, I mean,
in some ways, it's come back around for them.
Yeah, the narrative that Funko is like a Johnny-come-lately to the vinyl toy scene is kind of funny, because they predate pretty much everybody by a lot.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. But it's true. Another thing that I recently thought of that I think they do really well that we could probably work on as a scene is they're really good at celebrating their fan base and building their community. Like, their forums are extremely well attended. They do that Fun Day celebration at San Diego Comic-Con every year. That's an amazing event. I went to it last summer, and it really, really wowed me. Like, you can't help but love the company when you attend that event. And I don't know how we do it, because Funko is one entity with a very similar product across the board, and their fan base is probably very similar minded. And I think our toy scene is extremely diverse, and a lot of different companies, a lot of different artists, a lot of different personalities. And I don't know how, I feel like our toy scenes can sometimes have a sense of bravado to it, like a very fuck you attitude that isn't always that welcoming and can turn off people. So I think one thing that we can work on is our community building. And I see it at our conventions, 5 Points, Designer Con, but I would like to see it maybe carry out more through the year. And I'm not sure how to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I do too.
Wholeheartedly. Part of what we're doing as a business is trying to be kind of a community-oriented business, and whether that community is the community of collectors or the community of families that live near our business or the community of people in Chicago that love art, we'd love to be a hub for that thing. That's great. We ran an ad campaign for, maybe we're still running it. The slogan was "Let us be your happy place."
Oh, I love that.
Because that's what we want to be. We want to be the place that, when you're having a bad day, come hang out at the store and buy yourself a toy or check out the artwork or chat up the staff, because that's why we're there. Aside from, trying to make enough money to live.
That's somewhat important, but no, I love what you're saying, your message and your motto. I think that's awesome. And we were recently talking about that when we went out to 5 Points Fest. Like, going out there, I was just rejuvenated and had that strong sense of positivity and community building at that event. And I know that DesignerCon has the same thing, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm really sad we missed that this year. We were supposed to be there and then kind of realized we had some really egregious scheduling conflicts and didn't do it. But hopefully next year.
Now, are you guys doing San Diego Comic-Con this year? I know you guys have been a long-time exhibitor at that event, but a lot of us now are weighing whether to do it or not to do it anymore. You still going?
It's been a little contentious. We will be there. San Diego is San Diego. I mean, I don't have to tell you, Gary.
No, I love it.
I love it too, but for a business like ours, it's becoming harder and harder and harder to justify spending the amount of money and time and energy that goes into a booth in San Diego and super expensive hotel rooms and all of that.
Yeah, no, you can totally see it. In the last, probably 3-4 years, you've noticed like a lot of exhibitors aren't re-upping for the next year.
Yeah. Well, and part of that is just an evolution for kind of designer toys in general. Part of it is the fact that even just as an attendee, getting a badge to get into San Diego is so difficult now that it can't develop a community for something like designer toys because no one knows whether or not they're going to be able to go or not go.
That's totally true. A lot of the fan base just can't get in anymore.
Exactly. And not that I fault Comic-Con International, but they seemingly, the types of things we do were once seen as important to them, and it doesn't seem nearly as important to them anymore.
Yeah, and that's where DesignerCon and 5 Points Fest and these more focused conventions have really filled those shoes that San Diego once filled.
Yeah, we did our first DesignerCon this year, and it was great. Really more for community than anything.
Yeah.
We're excited to be back this year.
Sweet, you're going back. Nice.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I hope you're going back.
Absolutely. The only reason we ever hesitated to do that show was the fact that, at least early on, it was a one-day thing, and it was really close to Thanksgiving, and that's a real interesting time of the year for us, and that we're really ramping up, and our online business is taking off, and we're really trying to, we're really stretching our resources already. But when they expanded it to 2 days, it became a little more like, okay, we can make that trip if we're going to be there for a couple days. And in the end, we decided that even if it wasn't the type of thing where we're going to go and make a ton of money, it was just important for us to be a part of the community.
Yeah, no, I love that you guys are going now. That's fantastic.
It reminded me a lot of ways of like being at San Diego, say 2008 or 9 maybe. When there was still this really big designer toy presence there, and it was the one time of year where you saw everybody, and you ended up, going out for meals with everyone after a show, and maybe a drink or two or more.
Yeah, I mean, as great as social media is, it's really convenient and everything, but it doesn't beat meeting your fans and friends and colleagues, face to face once or twice a year at these conventions. So that's what it's all about. Yeah,
exactly. And in a lot of ways, that is what DesignerCon represents to me now, is that same kind of feeling of community and getting to see people that you may interact with a lot, but you don't get to see in person very often. And that's not just artists and companies, but really for us collectors. So much of our collector base is in Southern California. I mean, that's if you told me I had to pick like one place in the U.S. that's like the hotbed of designer toy collecting, it's definitely Southern California.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I probably would have guessed that too. I mean, it's not surprising that you're saying that. And, well, speaking of Southern California, actually some of our sponsors, probably more than 3/4 of them, are in Southern California too. So the Marsham Toy Hour is sponsored by PrintsonWood, where you can buy limited edition fine art prints or print your own artwork on wood. And for all your designer toy desires, be sure to check out 3D Retro. They are a beautiful brick and mortar location out there in Glendale, California. And there's also 3dretro.com. And we also have traveling toy supplier StrangeCat Toys. If you visit StrangeCatToys.com, be sure to use promo code MARSHAM at checkout to receive 10% off your total order. And for all your daily designer toy news, we have 2 awesome blogs for you. Be sure to visit thetoychronicle.com and SpankyStokes.com. And we do the show for you all, so we would love to hear from you. If you have any questions or comments or just suggestions for future segments, you can email us at marshamtoyhour@gmail.com or give us a call and leave a message at 480-420-0960. 9823. That phone number just goes directly to a machine, so just leave as many messages as you'd like. Again, the phone number is 480-420-9823, and maybe you'll get to hear your voice on the next episode. But seriously, hit us up with any potential topics or questions, or again, we do this for you, so whatever you guys want, we'd love to hear from you. So let's get back to Kirby and Whitney. So can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
Okay. So I started selling toys in 2004, and back then, like, the shipping rates were nothing compared to what they are today. Just constant rate hikes. So I'm wondering, like, as a business, as a store, how has the constant shipping rate hikes affected you as a business, and how have you learned to adjust to it?
It certainly made it harder for us. Priority mail rates gone up probably 100% in that time frame.
Exactly.
At least.
Yep.
I mean, for us, it is what it is. It's just a factor that we have to try to balance. And international shipping rates has been a real stick in our mud.
From a collector standpoint too, it's expensive.
Because shipping internationally is so expensive.
Yeah, and I know as a business, you guys probably don't do anything less than USPS priority shipping, right? Like, you don't do first class or anything like that, which is cheaper, but not as trackable and takes a lot longer.
We run a little counter to that common knowledge. I'm more than happy to ship things first class, and we try to educate our customers about what that means, like how long that's going to take. Have even started offering some even less expensive shipping methods that are not through the United States Postal Service.
Oh, okay.
That are slow, but they're cheap and reliable. I can ship like a blind box to let's say the UK with a tracking number for like $3, $3.50.
Oh, that's amazing.
So
that's exactly what we need. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it drives me nuts when I order a shirt, just say 2 states away, and they're like, "Oh, that shirt's going to be $10 shipping." I'm like, "No, why?" And then I don't buy that shirt.
Yeah. Sometimes it's store owners just not wanting to spend the time or money to do weight-based or size-based shipping calculations, because there's a lot of variables. And a store like ours, we're selling thousands of different items at any one time, so there's a lot of combinations. That's one of the factors. And the other thing is, like you said, the rates have just gone up and up and up to the point where I can ship some stuff internationally cheaper than I can domestically.
Wow, that's awesome. Because you hear kid robot collectors complaining all the time that when they order a blind box, it's like $30 in shipping.
Not only that, Gary, but they require you to pay like $18 minimum or something when you order off their website. Like, there's a minimum. So even if you want to buy like one item, you typically can't if it's smaller. Like the $6 enamel pins, I think you'd have to buy a handful to be able to even order. It's frustrating.
That's just the difference between a company like Kid Robot, who's primarily doing fulfillment out of a warehouse.
Yeah.
I'm not intimately familiar with their operations like I might have been several years ago.
But I think that's the good word that you're using there, intimate. I think you guys are giving that more personal, intimate relationship with your customers versus maybe a larger company.
Yeah, well, and that's it. And also just the scale we're working on is so much smaller that I can afford to be flexible and do stuff and spend the time to find a super cheap shipping method and offer a ton of different shipping methods that if you're running a much bigger operation that you really need to streamline, you can't do, or you can't reasonably do it.
Okay.
I don't fault anybody for any business that makes a decision like that. It's just one of those things. We're fortunate that we're able to do a lot of very customer centric stuff because we're big enough to have the knowledge and have kind of come to these different methods, but small enough to be flexible still.
That's fantastic. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Kirby, has it helped? I mean, those shipping prices sound insanely good. Has that helped international sales?
It has helped a little. I think the one part of Rotofugi that could definitely use some help is better marketing.
Well, that's what we're here for. We're going to get the word out.
So, getting the word out that we've got these kind of insanely great international shipping rates is, we've done our best to do that, but word gets around slowly.
Yeah.
The one caveat that comes with a $4 shipment to the UK is it might take a while.
Sure.
Yeah.
The shipping processes we're using, and I'm intentionally being vague. We're actually kind of vague about it on our website because it's such a good deal that I don't necessarily want everybody to try to do the same thing I'm already doing. So we just call it international post, but it uses a different country's postal system and a consolidator to ship things internationally, and it's 2 to 4 weeks worldwide.
Well, you're not giving away trade secrets, are you?
Not yet.
I mean, 2 to 4 weeks really isn't that bad.
Yeah, it's in most cases it's actually faster than first class mail.
Right.
And the same first class international mail package to the UK would maybe be $12 or $13 now. And we can do it for usually like right around $4.
That's crazy.
That'd be for, like maybe 1 or 2 blind boxes, a really lightweight small package.
Yeah.
I'll try to spread the word. I mean, there's definitely collectors I know outside of the U.S. and all the time we see stuff. I'm like, ooh, what is this? How do we get it? And it's good to know because then I can just say, hey, check this out. They apparently have crazy, insane shipping prices, so you don't even have to worry about that extra cost. I'll spread the word.
I think you just did. Kirby, Whitney, Rotofugi, you guys have been doing a few really great pop-ups recently. You recently had Kid Robot's Yummy World, and you got Tokidoki. How have the pop-up shops been for you, and how do you go about negotiating something like that?
Whitney, you want to take this?
They've been great. Actually, having the Yummy plush in the window of the gallery increased our foot traffic so much, and so many people just coming in because we saw that. But the pop-ups have been great, and people have really enjoyed them.
Now, do you have like an ongoing relationship with Tokidoki and Yummy World and other people to continue the pop-up relationship with your store and them?
I would be more than thrilled to do more pop-ups with both Kid Robot and Tokidoki in the future. I don't think we have any firm commitments on those yet, do we?
We do on one of them.
Woohoo!
We do on one of them. So
I have all but a date commitment, but it's definitely happening.
Nice. Cool.
Working with like Tokidoki or Kid Robot, how does that work? I mean, do you reach out to them? Do they reach out to you? Like, how did that all kind of begin?
In
we
both
reached
cases,
out to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially with Tokidoki, there's people at Tokidoki that go way back in the designer toy scene. Emily, whose title I no longer know because she keeps getting promoted at Tokidoki. Director.
I believe she's
worldwide.
the director of business development.
There you go.
Fancy
Director of
title.
Business Development at Tokidoki.
She was StrangeCat's first employee.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And I was the first
sales
person
rep.
she talked to. And I was the first person she talked to on her first day of work at StrangeCat.
More importantly, were you her first order?
I believe
Good
I was.
Probably.
I don't know. But it's really nice to work with them and get to see Emily more. I always think kind of one of the best things of owning Rotofugi is all the people that we've met and got to be friends with over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah. My world is so much bigger than it would have been otherwise.
Ain't that the truth?
I have to say, though, you all, for a non-Chicago collector, I was super jealous of the Tokidoki pop-up and that sweet wall you had where you were having contests of people taking photos and stuff.
It's still there, too. We didn't take it down.
Ooh, it's still there?
It'll
There
be
you go,
up for,
Teresa.
It'll probably be there for at least the next, let me think about this, 9 months, 8 months.
Oh.
Ooh, okay.
Teresa, next
Now
time you
I-
got a couple hours drive, 6 hour drive, just pop on over.
I know. I need to just make it a weekend thing and go up. But yeah, you can't take it down till I see it because I want to see it.
It's really pretty.
In May, so right as the Tokidoki pop-up ended, we completely rearranged our store, changed kind of where we display artwork within our space. And so one of the things that allowed us to do was leave that big Tokidoki wall up because that area that was previously the gallery is now something different. It's now, we're working on promoting it as an event space, which really is for two reasons. One, to be more community oriented, like we talked about earlier, but two, to help hopefully provide us another source of income.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the space where the drink and draws happen?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
So we're doing drink and draw on a monthly basis. We're looking at starting up other kind of monthly or at least every other month type events. Things like board game night at Rotofugi.
Oh, sweet.
Sign
me up for that.
And also doing things like maybe encouraging more trading parties and that sort of thing, which used to be kind of a big thing in the designer toy scene that kind of slowly died off.
Yeah.
I would love that, though. I wish I had more of that stuff around me, like the ability to meet up with people and swap and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our focus right now. That's our big project. That's the big thing that Whitney has really spearheaded for us, and we're just now, after about a year of planning and making changes and discussing all the possible scenarios where things could go wrong or go right, we're just getting that space ready and starting to really promote it as a gathering place.
That's really great, though. I love hearing about the evolution of your store and how you're including your local community more, and just all these different random events, especially like the board game night and the drink and draws. Like, I don't know, just it could just bring more eyes into what you as a store, but us as a toy scene as well.
Yeah, no, that's the goal. Without sounding too big-headed or anything, we really hope that we can become kind of an institution where people do want to gather and do stuff and whatever. I don't know that we're there yet, but I feel like we are headed in that direction.
Yeah, no, it sounds great to me. I love that you guys are doing that. I guess we should probably talk about the gallery side of your store a little bit. Like, how far in advance as you guys as curators, how far in advance do you book artists for shows?
Ideally, 18 months.
18 months.
18?
Yeah. I get really, really nervous if I have an opening on the schedule that's less than a year away.
That I understand, yeah.
That makes my skin crawl just a little bit when I have an opening that's like, 10 months out.
Yeah.
Do you ever worry about, like, I mean, not trying to be negative, but like booking someone that far ahead and then
It happens.
Yeah, like they change or they get, their life changes to a different direction or their style changes and it's not really what you were expecting to be in the show and all that kind of stuff?
It's happened. It's not a major problem. We, as a gallery, are pretty hands-off when it comes to content. I, as a curator, firmly believe in giving artists freedom to do whatever it is they want to do. Great. 9 times out of 10, that is something that's very recognizable as a given artist. But about 10% of the time, when you give someone that freedom, they just decide to take a completely new direction.
Yeah.
And usually that's amazing. I think one of the first artists to do that to us, that sounds like a bad thing, but one of the first artists to do something like that really caught me off guard was Amanda Vazelle. We did a show with her where kind of out of nowhere she decided, like, instead of painting, she was going to make these bronze sculptures that were all like super heavy and presented a lot of display challenges and was really something new for her.
Okay.
And the show ended up being super successful because it was fresh and new and different, and I feel like if I had told her from the beginning, like, oh, these are the paintings of yours I like, I want more stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I just don't see that as my role. I see it as our role to give creative freedom and let the chips fall where they may.
So you don't even drive like themes at all? It's pretty much just, hey, we want you to do a show and a year and a half from now, will you do it? And that's pretty much it?
This is the size and price range that sells best for us.
Yeah. We spend a little more time talking to artists about the quantity of work they're going to produce and the sizes and the price ranges that are appropriate for our space and our collector base. And I think in 13 years as a gallery, I've only specifically requested part of an artist's body of work one time.
That's cool. I mean,
and I feel
like... Oh, go ahead, Whitney.
Oh, I was just going to say, I feel like there's been more times we've been completely rewarded by somebody doing something, outside of the box, and the few times where we've been like, that wasn't what we were wanting,
Yeah. That's good, because I know a lot, some people will be turned off by someone trying something a little outside what their expectancy is.
Yeah. But it's cool. I mean, it's like an open book, right? And you're respecting the fact that basically the idea of art and that artists should be inspired to do what they're feeling at that time or that moment or what they want to create versus being told to fit themselves in a box that they've already been in. So I think it could produce some really cool stuff to allow them to just kind of, hey, we want you, kind of open book, do what you want sort of a thing. So
I think you're always going to get better work when you let people do what they want and let them do their job instead of micromanaging them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you prefer doing solo shows, or do you like it when you have a mix of maybe, say, 3 artists doing little micro shows together?
That's something we've experimented with and changed a lot over the years. When we first started, we were doing a ton of big group shows, lots of like 20, 30, 40, 50 artists in a single show. That slowly evolved into for several years, it was almost always 2 artists, sometimes 3, and that slowly became a preference for single artist solo exhibitions, and that is my preference.
Is it just easier to manage?
It really, for 2 reasons. Just logistically, dealing with a single artist versus 50 artists is a much smoother time for everybody involved. But, if I'm going to ask someone to commit time and energy and their creative output to a space, I want to hopefully give them space to create. And if we have 5 artists in a show, that's 1/5 the amount of work per artist. I just like to see artists really develop a body of work.
Yeah.
And that's what the really good exhibits are. They're a slice in time of an artist's creative output. And if you're constraining the space, the more people you add to that, the less of a slice you're getting from each artist. So, but at the same time, we often do shows where it's 2 or 3 artists. That's often just a practical consideration for working artists that maybe don't have time to devote to creating 40 pieces over a 12 or 18 month time span.
Yeah.
Because not every artist has that capability, or whether they want it or not.
I'm raising my hand right now. That's me.
Yeah. Yeah, Gary's a pretty good example of someone I think that's on the future schedule. That's what, a 3-person show?
I've heard a little snippet.
I think it's a 3-person show.
It's a 3-person show. I can't think of right now if it's 2017 or maybe it might be 2018. I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure that's 2018, my friend.
You best start working, Gary. No slack.
Well, I guess I should start concepting and coordinating with the others in the event, huh?
Nah. Hey, you know what? Every artist is different. Like, I know for a fact that we've hung full gallery exhibits where the art was all created within the 2 weeks before the opening.
Oh, I can't do that. I got kids.
Exactly. But other artists are, there's artists we work with that I know for a fact that, when I book an exhibit, say 18 months out, what I'm going to have in 18 months is their creative output for perhaps a year.
Yeah.
And that's a big commitment that we take seriously. That, we want to exhibit it and document it in a good fashion and give it our best effort to put eyes on their artwork and help them build their career and help each other. 2
people that come to mind when you describe it that way is Andrew Bell and even Course. It's just 2 extremely large exhibits where you feel like you're getting a year's worth of body of work for that show.
I think you hit the nail on the head. With Course, Mark and Sven, we've maintained a kind of 18 to 24 month exhibit schedule with them for years now. In a lot of ways, that is exactly what you're seeing when you see their exhibit with us. It's the last year's worth of work. It's a hint at future directions. Mm-hmm. It's their creative outlet away from the things that are more mass produced. It's a partnership that we are extremely lucky to have, and I'm not even sure why we have it. I think we have it because we were the first store in the U.S. to email them when they were still based in Germany and ask them if we could buy some of their toys and sell them in, I think, late 2004.
Wow, that's pretty early.
Maybe early 2005.
Okay.
Fun fact, at the time, they weren't particularly popular.
Yeah.
It took a while to develop their
I think we clearanced our first set of Course toys, which now if we had I wish we hadn't done that.
Interesting.
Oh, well.
It's funny that you mentioned that because we were just talking with a friend about this the other day, how everyone starts out, you never know who's going to, explode and become very popular. And the one case that we were talking about was Instinct Toy. Actually, it was George we were talking to. And he was saying that was years ago at Designer Toy Con when Instinct Toy came over. He loved everything in the booth, and he was trying to send people over there. You got to go check out their stuff. But he noticed that not many people were really appreciating what they had to offer back then, and they weren't doing really well in sales at DesignerCon. But flash forward today, when I was at 5 Points Fest, most people were lining up like hours and hours early, and the first booth almost everyone was running to was the Instinct toy booth. So it's just weird how sometimes that works out, and it sounds like that's how it worked with Course. You were an early supporter and appreciated of their work, and you developed and cultured that bond with them before they became the popular brand they are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and, you know, after a while it becomes very personal. They're like family to us, and we're lucky to have that relationship with several different artists. Lucky is the only way I can describe it. I mean, it's made both our personal life and our business so much better that we've had the luck and the chance to meet so many cool people.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. And I think another thing that you guys really need credit for too is like how involved you are for your local community. I mean, we've already touched on that for sure, but you've also helped produce toys with artists in the Chicago area, and well, even Chris Reiniak, who's out in Ohio. But
Midwest represent.
So you've helped produce toys with 64 Colors and Shawnimals and Chris Reiniak, and so what's it been like helping to produce toys along with your partner Scribbles Inc?
Honestly, you've made toys, Gary.
I
you
have.
know how this works.
Yes.
It's a tough business making and trying to sell toys.
Yes.
We've had some big hits, and we've had a lot of medium hits, and a couple things that just didn't work.
Sure.
But the end goal, I think we've done a pretty good job at, which was to kind of, we started that in 2007 when Kid Robot and Strange Co. and a lot of the companies that were producing vinyl toys were picking a lot of artists that they knew. They were picking their local artists in a lot of ways. Okay. And so that meant a lot of toys from San Francisco and LA-based artists, and then from Kid Robot from New York-based artists, or at least East Coast-based artists. And the people in the Midwest just wasn't an avenue for them.
Sure.
And so when we started doing that, and I don't want to give ourselves too much importance here, maybe any importance in this regard, but it certainly what we tried to do was be that creative outlet, that entry point for artists like we try to be for our customers. I think we've done some pretty cool things. The Marshalls, I think, are a really good example of a cute, small, simple toy. Mm-hmm. The teardrips that we made with Travis Lampy are still one of my personal favorite toys.
Yeah, that's great.
I will say they will be sold out soon.
Finally.
We've had them for a while.
Those blind boxes?
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't realize that was you.
Yeah, that's Squibbles Inc. and Rotofugi.
Yeah.
Oh,
cool. They released in 2009 when everybody was very sad about the Great Recession.
Yes.
Nobody wanted a sad toy. And now they're one of our best-selling blind boxes every single month after month.
Deservedly so, yeah.
But soon they will be gone.
I'm going online right now.
Yeah, Gary, get on that.
Those, get them now. I'd be remiss to not really give a lot of credit here to Joe Summers. That's Squibbles Inc. Because Joe is the driving force behind not just making things, but being the person that's remained optimistic about designer toys, while we might have been a little more pessimistic, mm-hmm. and has continued to help produce and finance and make projects with us when maybe from a financial standpoint it's not the best thing to do, because he believes and enjoys being a part of the process of kind of toys as art.
Yeah. And
I think there's a lot of people like Joe in this industry that, they're doing it for love and not necessarily just for money. And it's nice if it makes money, but you got to have the passion for it to be possible.
I feel that's generally where you get the best product too. The people who are passionate about it, all the designers that are still around in our toy scene I feel like they're still around because they still love this toy medium that we're working in.
Yeah, very true. I think you're a good example of that. Jess J. Rue's a really good example of that. Mm-hmm. Someone that's just super enthusiastic about community and about the art form. I love how we go back and forth, like talking about designer toys like they're this high art form. but also acknowledging that they are, at the end of the day, just a chunk of plastic. And that, for me, that's one of the reasons they're so addictive and interesting, is that it's this dichotomy between cheap thing versus expensive art form. And in a lot of ways, a lot of my favorite toys are things that kind of combine cute and creepy or cute and scary in one form. To me, that's, if you ask me to define, designer toys, or certainly what I love in designer toys, it's a dichotomy. It's a push and pull. Yeah. That's something that is unique, I think, to designer toys.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that too. And I love the irony in a lot of these pieces. And also what's weird, I think another classification of designer toys is just like some of the political statements and stuff that some of our toys have. And I know personally for me, I tend to buy just toys that I look at and instantly that maybe a slight emotional connection, like, that makes me feel happy, or something that sometimes I just look at and it's cool and I want it. But sometimes there's something you look at and there's a story there and you're kind of emotionally attached to it. And there's a lot of different reasons why we buy the toys that we do. But
yeah, I mean, in the end, we're just trying to engage with people any way we can. Yeah, I mean, that's a life thing. That's not just toys, but if we can kind of get people to engage and enjoy art through toys, then we've done a pretty good thing.
Heck yeah. Do you think there's more toy in toys today than art? I know that's kind of a strangely phrased question, but do you understand?
It's a tough question to answer. If you look at what we sell, and Whitney, jump in here if you want to, we are increasingly a toy store, not a designer toy store.
Sure.
And that, I think, kind of goes back to something I touched on way earlier in this conversation, which is the kind of way designer toys work has become a lot more decentralized. And in some ways, a lot of things have become that way. So, instead of buying everything from one retailer, people have a lot of choice, and even more likely to buy it directly from the person who made the item. And that's a good thing. But it means that we have to evolve, too, and have products that we can sell.
Okay.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
So that these days, that means a lot more for us, things like imported toys that aren't necessarily designer toys, but maybe fit the aesthetic or would have been influential on or influenced by designer toys, and things like Japanese erasers and stationery and
I love the stationery.
Those erasers, I bet those are what you were buying, Gary.
Yeah.
Those Ayako
Yeah.
Yep.
I love those. We're getting more and more stationery in the store these days. There's a lot of fun stuff out there.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, it doesn't just have to be.
And
toys
it sells
anymore.
great.
Yeah, that's always nice. But yeah, I mean, as far as anything that's just a fun, cool design, or just something fun or quirky, like especially a lot of cards and stuff, all of that stuff does really well. And that's kind of why I said you were kind of almost more boutique-ish now, because it's not just designer toys. But it's great that you guys are importing more stuff.
And that's not even strictly imported. I mean, we stock stationery by just kind of more independent artists too. So that's just trying to find things that work within our aesthetic and go for it.
Yeah. And that sounds quite different than when you first started too, because you were mentioned that when you first started, no on the licensing and wanting to stay more technically designer toy-ish. But today you're a lot more family oriented, because I think back then designer toys were geared to the ages between 20 and 40, like almost the more college crowd. But now, like you said, more families are coming in, so the kids might gravitate towards the cuter blind boxes or the Yummy World plushes, and dad might be checking out the Sofubi section or that sort of stuff. So I think that's cool that you guys are going a lot more broad in your range and reaching to families and multi-generations. I think that's only going to help.
We hope so.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a question about what you guys stock. Like, what's your current bestseller, and then what's something that shocked you? Something that you probably didn't expect to do well, and it just did extremely well.
Oh, Whitney, you want to try to answer that?
Oh, God.
It all kind of blurs together after a while.
Yeah.
For one.
It really does. I hate to say how much it blurs together, but it does. Actually, if you would know how much it blurred together, those silly videos I made last year about me unboxing toys.
Yes,
not
I
remembering anything's name.
Bring unboxing Rotofugi's basement back. It's fun.
We might.
That was ridiculous. Maybe. Well, one of the new things we're wanting to do in the new event space is put out more of our toy collection. So I need to display. I don't want to sell my toys. I only sell my toys when I'm really broke and I need money. Otherwise, they're mine. And pull more of our collection out in the event space.
Yeah.
So people
a lot of our
retrospective.
A lot of our collection's been boxed up because we moved and we had a kid, and we went from having a house where practically every available flat surface had a toy on it to kind of relegating it all to one rather sizable display case, but still one display case.
Yeah, we went from having like 3,000 toys to 300 toys
on display. The rest of them are still a lot of them are still in boxes. We sold a bunch of stuff last year when we kind of needed some money.
We didn't really sell that much stuff. We have a lot more stuff.
Oh yeah, by the time it's all said and done, would you end up selling maybe 200 or 300 toys?
That's quite a bit. That's quite a bit.
Yeah, but it's a dent.
I mean, I think it's cool though, because it reminds me kind of a bit of Toy Tokyo and how he kind of has his sort of display out in his store just to kind of show sort of the history of what he's collected. So I think it's a cool idea of kind of like a little mini designer toy museum to kind of just see how things started and moved and what you gravitate towards, and it'd be cool just to kind of look through.
All right, we'll do it.
Do it.
You convinced me.
No, I think a retrospective would be awesome. Like I remember going to the DKE booth at San Diego Comic-Con, and you would just look through those cases. I mean, you had them filled to the brim because anything that they stocked, Dove would keep 1 or 2 copies of everything. So he had literally, you could just, like I said, it was almost a museum. You could see everything that was kind of been coming out or had come out. So it'd be amazing to go through your shop and, especially for newcomers, to see toys that were out 10 years ago. Or even in my case, I see a lot of toys only on toy blogs. A lot of toys I've never actually seen in person. So to be able to see even some of those toys would be really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you look at what we display in our home, there's a definite penchant for what was exciting and new in 2005. It's a whole lot of Baseman and Biscup and James Jarvis and Dalek and stuff like that.
Sure. Yep.
Jeremy Fish. Early like Bunny Van and Turtle Camper and stuff like that. I'm just sitting here looking at it and naming stuff now.
Yeah, a lot of those names that you're kind of naming have kind of moved on. We don't see too much from them in the toy world anymore.
Biscup's mostly done. Baseman's still involved, but he's not releasing a whole lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
James Jarvis is definitely moved on, like formally moved on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an evolving thing. I mean, nothing is ever static, thankfully. I mean, if we were still only, if the same 3 artists were still the big artists in designer toys 10 years later, that would mean it was probably pretty boring.
Right. Yeah. And then you speak of the evolution of designer toys. So, like, I don't know, there's probably like 2 or 3 waves of our scene. Like, so at first it was very high production run. We're talking thousands of units made, and then things started to slow down. The market became oversaturated. I would say this is probably wave 2, where a lot of more independent people or a lot of collectors start producing their own stuff. And then where are we today? Do you think we're in a wave 3, where we're kind of having a reinvention of our scene?
I think we might be coming up on the 3rd wave. I think we're still really firmly in. If I'm going to define it, I'm going to define it that. So first wave is doesn't involve the U.S.
Right. Hong Kong
first
vinyl.
First wave is Hong Kong vinyl for sure. It's Michael Lau and Eric So and so many great artists. Kind of, if you will, urban vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
That's a term that doesn't get used so much anymore. but it was a very urban aesthetic.
Yeah.
Second wave is basically the explosion of designer toys in the U.S. in the kind of mid-2000s, and we were fortunate to be a part of that. And then third wave is like you mentioned, I think kind of post-recession, where a lot of the retailers had a hard time hanging on through that. I mean, I think we've been fairly open about it, but we had a hell of a time holding on. Really, for like the 6 years after the recession, we fought and struggled and did everything we could to keep our business going. And that's an ongoing process still. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of the third wave where everything kind of turned a little more inward and became a little more independent and a little more about the artists, about resin kind of coming up as a media that had validity or was collectible.
Mm-hmm. And even Sofubi, and a lot more of that production too.
Absolutely. Well, and the Sofubi model is interesting in that it's much more geared towards short runs and being more accessible to individual artists.
Yeah.
And that's all just down to like manufacturing process. I mean, that's the interesting part about this all is like a lot of the trends are defined by like how cheaply can we make something and how few can we make. I mean, that's where the kind of the idea of a designer toy comes from to begin with is, Michael Lau kind of realizing that he could make as few as 500 or 1,000 toys. Mm-hmm. And then kind of creating out of thin air an art form. And then over the years, it's kind of evolved, and what small run means has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller to the point now small run often means 5 or 10. Small run used to be 300 or 500 or maybe even 1,000.
Right.
That was a small run because it was being compared to, I remember seeing something, I think it was when Tower was still open. Mm-hmm. And they had, I don't remember what it was. It wasn't a designer toy. It was a book or a record or whatever. And it was like touting like limited edition, one of 10,000. And, if you tried to pull that today, people would laugh at you.
Sure.
So we're going back to our wave analogy. I think we're still firmly in third wave, which is all about independent artists and smaller editions and people just gaining a foothold.
True.
And I'm hopeful that the fourth wave is kind of a more popular resurgence of vinyl as a medium. I think it's starting to happen.
It feels like it.
It's happening in different countries right now. It's happening in Thailand. Mm-hmm.
For sure.
And Malaysia and Indonesia. So I think we'll see that energy and that kind of passion for vinyl as a medium kind of slowly come back to the U.S. market too. Not that it ever really went away, but it took a hit.
It did for sure. And I totally agree with what you're saying about the resurgence, especially overseas. And so since we've been doing this podcast for about the past year, I've really noticed like a lot of the great releases and conventions are coming from overseas. Like you got, Unbox doing amazing things out over there in Europe, and then like you mentioned, Thailand, amazing stuff coming out of Thailand. And even like 5 years ago, we started seeing a lot of producers and products coming out of Singapore.
Yep.
And then now you go to the Philippines. Big boom coming out of Philippines with Quicks and what Big Boy Chen's doing over at Secret Fresh in the Philippines. Mm-hmm. And it's really growing out in the Philippines. So we're seeing a lot of growth out in the Asian countries. And I think we're kind of starting to see that influence kind of creep its way back over to the States, especially with like the Medicom's VAG series. Everyone seems really excited about the Gotcha series and all that sort of stuff.
I agree completely. I also like that you can't bring yourself to say VAG.
No, I can't.
That's not how you do it.
We mentioned that acronym on the show, and no, I try to say. In my head, I might say VAG, but I say VAG out loud.
It's VAG. You do not pronounce acronyms as a word.
No, but you do. In some cases, you do. When there's a vowel in the middle of two consonants, you have to pronounce it. You don't say.
I started a grammar war. Awesome.
Yeah.
I disagree. One thing I was going to ask about, kind of back to toys, and then you're talking a bit about your relationship with Course and then also helping local artists and producing stuff. And I know you've all kind of had an opportunity both with Course and other companies to do some store exclusives. And so I was just curious how you feel about doing that kind of stuff. Do you enjoy being able to have things that you can tout as something that only you sell? And then is there anything in the works that we could look forward to potentially coming soon?
I like being the only one to sell it if I know I have a lot of them and I can sell it. But just to have a store exclusive, I don't really care. Kirby, do you?
The way I can answer that is to say that exclusives are risky.
Yeah.
Unless you're working with someone, and even if you are working with someone that has a big following, taking on 100 or 200 or 500 of a single product for a store like ours is a risky proposition. So, if you look past over our history, we've done a fair amount of store exclusives, but it's really slowed down the last several years as the market has changed. And that means that it's just so hard to predict. So to answer your question, Theresa, I don't think there are any exclusive things on the radar that aren't Squibbles Inc. and Rotofugi produced stuff.
Gotcha. Which makes sense.
That doesn't mean there won't be more, because we're always open to ideas and opportunities. But I'm trying to remember. I don't think there's anything in production right now that would be an exclusive.
Okay. I mean, that makes complete sense, the risk behind it. And I guess from a collector standpoint, I don't typically have that hat on. I'm thinking more of, I just want the thing, and sometimes stores are the only one that have it. And so, okay, that's where I'm going to go to get it, kind of a deal. But
yeah. I mean, for us, designer toys are this interesting thing in that they're both our passion, but they're also our livelihood. So I have to look at things not only from the collector passionate part of me, but the realistic part of it is, if we put, let's say, $10,000 or $15,000 into a single product, that means that money's not available to stock 100 other products.
Sure.
Yep.
It eats into our variety. It makes it, and unless that's a really successful, quick-selling product, it ties up money that we really need to do other things with.
Sure.
Sense? Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to start winding down. I don't forgot to tell you guys, congratulations on winning yet another designer toy award. Like, this has become a yearly thing. I think you guys have won one every single year since it's started, right?
At least one.
Yes. One of the two categories, it seems.
One of the two categories, yeah.
3 years we won both.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Is it getting tiresome winning that many awards?
No.
Keep them coming?
It does not get tiresome. It's just a weird thing.
It never gets old.
That just shows the love and support you have.
It does. In a lot of ways, I don't know that those awards are really reflective of us being this amazing store. I like to think of it as a validation of kind of our approach to business and being very customer centric, and kind of we've always just kind of bent over backwards for our customers.
Sure.
And I think in a lot of ways that's what those awards show. They show 13 years of hard work and trying to always do what is best for the people that continue to give us money for toys, so that we can eat and pay rent and have a life that we love.
Yeah, no, it's definitely well deserved, and I know there's a lot of stores that still want that award, so they're coming for you. But definitely well deserved, and keep up the good work.
Well, thanks, man.
So, is there anything else that now that we're winding down, is there anything that we didn't touch on that we should probably bring up or talk about?
Oh gosh, nothing that's not secret.
those elusive secret projects.
What's your next events coming up? You got
so we've got a couple events coming up. One that I'm almost afraid to talk about because it's a little over a week away, and I'm still like hammering to finish details.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's a last minute thing, but it should be really cool. We've got an art exhibit with Jesse Ledoux opening on July 7th. Toy collectors, especially the older toy collectors, might remember the series he did for Kid Robot called Ledouville.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Jesse's a great artist. If you're not familiar, look him up. It's ledouville.com. LEDOUXville.com.
Okay.
That's what's next in the gallery. Gosh, what else do we do, honey? What do we got coming up?
You got that pre-launch.
If you
we've got a Tokidoki Tokidoki thing this coming Monday evening.
That backpack is rad.
Yeah, so that's Jujubee is the manufacturer for that line, and they're
really nice bags.
They make great stuff. It's all primarily geared at moms and parents, if you will. They're technically most of their line are technically diaper bags, but when you see them, you're like, yeah, it's a diaper bag. It's not. I would totally rock that.
I would totally rock a diaper bag. Hell yeah!
And so we're
they don't look diaper baggy.
No,
they most all come with a changing pad, though. You know.
Well, that's why they're. I mean, I think that's why they're popular. Is that they're diaper bags that don't look like diaper bags. Ooh, I've got 1% of battery left.
Is that
Bye,
something?
everybody?
Yeah. So maybe we should start wrapping it up.
Yeah, I'll go plug in.
God, you guys carry We Bear plushes.
We just got those in. I'm so excited. And the little ones have magnets and they stack.
Oh! Okay, so I'm going to be ordering some of the Travis Lampy teardrops, and I'm going to be adding some of these We Bear Bears in there. That giant... How awesome is that 12-inch Grizz?
It's pretty great.
He's really great. And there's 12-inch of the other two as well. They're just not out yet.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm going to be dropping some money tonight.
Do I need to watch this show?
It's a great show. It really
it's not
is.
just for kids.
You know what?
No.
I've seriously only seen it like once because we don't have cable, and it was hilarious.
It's one of the few shows that I can watch with my 4-year-old that I actually, like, okay, I'm going to sit and watch. This is between We Bear Bears and maybe like Teen Titans Go. I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch this. But I've seen enough Bubble Guppies and SpongeBob to last a lifetime.
Man, we are on completely different wavelengths.
Oh, really?
I have watched more than enough Curious George for like a lifetime. And these days, so much Blaze.
Oh, Blaze, yes.
So much Blaze.
It's ridiculous how kids love. They get fixated on one thing and they want to watch that one thing. So,
yeah.
And PJ Masks is the newest thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, PJ Masks. Yep. Yeah.
Oh, and Paw Patrol. Paw Patrol. Well,
Gary, did you see this Myland Dino?
What?
Those are so cute.
But it's adorable.
So Kiddo is the company.
Okay.
Kiddo is the company, and they're STEM toys. So if you put the character in them, or pull it out, or turn them to the side, depends on like what noises the dino makes. They're really pretty too.
No.
Look,
ABS stuff.
Oh.
Look under shop, and it's like the first page. All products, just like click collections all, and then there's a UFO, like a little alien in a UFO, but there's a dinosaur. It's super cute.
Yeah, and Kiddo is one of those small brands making stuff for kids that like really design oriented.
Okay.
You know, I don't know if you'd call them designer toys because there's not as big of an emphasis on the artist. But we started carrying them because we thought they were really cool.
Dude, I love that. I
like having something in an under 3 rating.
Yeah, you say for under 3, but a 43-year-old's going to buy it right now. But damn it, I'm going to be spending so much money tonight.
Sorry, Gary, but you had to see it because I knew you would love it.
I do. I love it.
Something we can legally recommend to a customer that's shopping for their 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
That's fantastic. Okay. I'm going to start loading up the cart.
One more quick question. That Jujubee, the launch, so I know you're doing like the pre-launch in store, and I guess people will get first dibs. Are you setting anything specifically aside for online, or do you just kind of, will stuff just sell out, they sell out? Because I'm going to have to look online.
It will sadly be, if it sells out, it sells out. I know.
I need to come to Chicago. Okay.
I know. We'll see you on Monday evening then.
Take the day off.
And it's not something I talk about a lot, but you know, I mean, there's a reason for that. You know, something like this, even a small pre-launch event is an investment for us, where we're buying a fairly significant amount of inventory on the hopes that we can sell it in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
So
I get it. You need to sell. You don't want to.
So if a whole bunch of people show up at my store on Monday night and wipe me out of Jujubee bags, then so be it.
So you're a happy man. So actually, that was one of the things we didn't really talk about, but I assume from your standpoint, you want sellouts. You know, even if it's a pre-event and they all sell out there, from your perspective as a company, you're like, great, we need to sell the inventory we purchased, even if it means you don't have any to put online.
Yes and no.
I love really reordering things. I mean, one really great set of toys that just keeps selling and selling and selling for us are the Ron English serial killers.
Okay.
And the fact that they're still available and we can get them back in stock.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Wait till those are available in the minifigures, and that's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Are those going to be more so I saw the minis at 5 points, but they seemed exclusive to Toy Tokyo. So I guess there's more coming that are more retail spread.
I don't know if those are exclusive to Toy Tokyo or it's just that Toy Tokyo is doing the production.
Okay. I gotcha.
I've been trying to nail that down for a couple months. Haven't quite figured it out yet.
Well, I just want to tell our listeners, for any listeners looking for everything from awesome plush like the We Bear plush to awesome kaiju, exported Japanese toys to designer toys, like Rotofugi is the store for you, so definitely be sure to check out their store. They also carry, we're having an explosion of enamel pins in our toy scene, and
so many pins.
Yeah, so many pins. And you guys carry a wide variety. I know you carry a lot of art pin collections pins, and so... Yeah,
the art pin stuff specifically is a pretty good example or indicative of kind of how our life has gone, in that's someone that is a long-term customer of the store that decided he wanted to be more involved in the art scene, and producing enamel pins was his way to do it. Mm-hmm. And because we had this relationship already, we kind of started working together. So they produce all the stuff. We're the kind of wholesaler, distributor, and primary retailer for them, and it's a great collaboration. So shout out to Avery and Yaniv and the art pin collection.
Yeah, for sure.
And you've got one.
You guys are carrying the Whooper Looper pin. So any Whooper Looper fans out there, Rotofugi will take care of you.
Yes, we will.
Well, thank you so much, Kirby and Whitney, for joining us late on a Friday evening. But I learned a lot from you guys, and congratulations again on all your success and Designer Toy Awards and everything. And definitely looking forward to the pop-ups and all the events you have going on, and thank you for how you've been helping grow this toy community. So why don't you take a brief moment and just let everyone know where they can find you, from your store to you on social media.
You can find us in Chicago at 2780 North Lincoln Avenue. It's the intersection of Diversey, Lincoln, and Racine, 6-way intersection, or online at rotofugi.com. And on social media, I think pretty much everything, we're at Rotofugi.
Sweet.
So
cool.
So yeah, find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Although to be honest, you really only need to follow one of them because it's pretty much all the same.
So honest. I love your honesty.
Yeah.
All right.
I got nothing to lie about. Gary, Theresa, thank you so much for having us.
No, anytime. Loved having you.
And Gary, I'm looking forward to seeing you whenever it is that is scheduled.
Yeah,
since neither of us can exactly remember.
I think it's May 2018. I think it's May 2018. I believe
you're correct. And, I think you're right.
Yeah, but if not, I hope to see you at DesignerCon. Maybe.
You're gonna be at DCon.
Yeah, maybe San Diego next month actually. So you never know.
Oh, don't tell me. Don't tell me.
It's coming up.
I don't want to talk about it.
I'm
not ready.
Theresa, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you?
As always, check me out on Instagram. My username is tmhawk24.
And I am Gary Ham. You can find me at superham.com or Gary Ham on Instagram. This has been the Marsham Toy Hour. We're trying our best. Until our next transmission, we're signing off. Bye. So, already...
Later.
Gary, we're trying our best? What are you doing?
I'll fix that.
He made me laugh.
He totally botched that.
I might fix that in the edit, but I like it. So, in my cart already, you guys, I got the magnetic We Bear minis. I have 4 Travis Lampy tear drips. I got that Dino Land, the Myland Dino that you're talking about, Theresa.
Can I give you the pro tip?
Yeah.
12 tear drips get you a full set. 1 of each.
Ooh, get the case.
I'm just saying.